In 2007, Guy Maddin, a Canadian filmmaker, made a mockumentary consisting of archival footage, still photos, animations, and interviews, offering many different looks and textures for his audience to submerge themselves in. He filmed a big chunk of his project on an HD camera, later projecting that footage onto his own refrigerator and filming it on 16mm as well as 8mm film to match his home videos from when he was a little kid. There's a sense of nostalgia with his creativity on conceiving this project. It echoed a kid in their innovative ways of being a one-man show as they discover their passion for filmmaking for the first time. Madden tells his coming-of-age story in Winnipeg, Manitoba, through history lessons, fantasies, facts, and memories, revolving around different locations with old photographs, rather than the people in them. It made me think about my own coming-of-age story within my own town. It made me think about the history of Northbrook, how close it was to John Hughes' heart. I remember when I was little how excited I was knowing that the high school I would one day be going to was the same school Ferris Bueller went to. My dad would drive me up and down the winding road beside the school that Ferris and his friends took off on during their day of playing hooky. I dreamed about having a day just like theirs, that maybe one day down the road, me and my future friends would be able to pull off the same thing. I remember the white hen my dad would take me and my sister to every Saturday morning when we were little for donuts. And donuts, and even more donuts. We had so many donuts. Afterwards, we would play a game that I made up called Taxi Driver, where my dad would drive around and quiz me on my knowledge of direction. He would say a location in our town, whether it be my school, our church, a store, or restaurant, and from wherever we were, I would have to navigate us all to get there. When we arrived, we would switch places, and my sister would then be quizzed. My mom would take us to the pool in the summer, and she would give me a pep talk to help me build courage to finally go down the big slide by myself. I remember how tall and scary it seemed. My legs trembled and I wanted to cry, but she also knew how much I wanted to conquer that motherfucker since my best friend did it the weekend before. She told me that there's a lot of things I'll have to do by myself in this lifetime, and I can't be scared. After walking up the 4 flights of stairs by myself, I lost my stomach, tossing and turning down the slide as water flew up into my face. I remember how I struggled to breathe, but also how liberating every drop and turn felt. I came out of the opening at the bottom and saw her waiting on the sidelines behind the lifeguard. She was cheering me on, not giving a shit what any other parent thought. I remember the park in my neighborhood that I ran away to when I was 6. This was definitely not the first of my many dramatic outbursts, but I packed up my suitcase in the heat of a tantrum and got the fuck out. I didn't look back until I was brought home 30 minutes later by a police officer. I think about the railroad tracks that me and my friends thought we owned. We built forts in the forest that we would hang out in for hours. My friends and I would carve our names into an old oak tree, saying when we're 40 we'll come back and check on it. We slept on the trampoline in my backyard, and we would sneak out and nervously ding-dong ditch the neighborhood cannibal lady who was supposedly on house arrest for eating her husband. Her lawn was overgrown with towering trees. There were gargoyles in her backyard and bars upon her windows. We would have to avoid the cameras and motion-detecting lights when one brave soul would be nominated to ring her doorbell. My town felt like a place of infinite possibilities and adventures to last a lifetime. But as the years packed on, that feeling started to wither away. I watched our local Blockbuster slowly shut down. It was the first moment that truly rocked my world. I remember panicking over the fact that I would never find a new horror movie again in my entire life. The rotation of high schoolers that worked there over the years knew my name by heart and always set aside new releases for me to get first dibs on. The storefront stayed abandoned for a couple years before the city council agreed to turn it into a dollar store. I only went to it once. Eventually, I experienced every road in town with the help of my friends as we aimlessly drove around while smoking weed. The paranoia kicked in for all of us that one day we would get busted because we pushed our luck a little too often. Nothing was exciting anymore and there was nothing new to see. Instead, we settled on smoking in our parents' garages as well as the same 3 basements. Every weekend started to feel the same and everything started to blur. We enjoyed our short-lived hobby of occasionally sneaking into neighborhood yards to jump into pools while the owners were asleep. But that all changed when we got in trouble one night. Our town began to suffocate us, and we felt trapped. I remember sneaking out in the middle of the night and making out in the back of cars in quiet corners of hidden parking lots. And when I walked home after, I dreamed of escapism and what the next chapter would look like for me. When I turned 18, it was the first time I packed up all my stuff and moved someplace new. This time I wasn't just making my way to the park down the street. I was going across the country. As much as I hated my town, it was the first time since I was little that I truly appreciated it. When I got on the plane, I almost had withdrawals and broke out into a hideous rash that lasted me the whole welcome week during my first semester of college. Little did I know that a few months later I would end back up in the same place and house that I oh so desperately wanted to leave. It's weird how your opinions change about a place over time, the different lenses you see things through. My town has definitely changed, and I'm 22 years old now, finishing up my last semester of college. I know that I won't be here much longer, but I know it will always be here for me. As I look out my window during quarantine, I see people in my neighborhood that I've never seen before. New families and their youngins, the new generation. I wonder if these kids will experience anything that this small town offers the same way I did. Will they do the same things? Will there be a film buff kid who also forces his parents to drive him up and down the same street Ferris Bueller drove down? Is there a mom giving her son a pep talk about going down that same water slide for the first time? Is my name still carved in that old oak tree? How's the cannibal lady? Does she still live there? Do these kids even know who the cannibal lady is? Is there a new woman that took her place? I wonder if all the memories I made with my friends throughout the years still exist within their own consciousnesses. If they remember things the same way I do. I wonder if they think about me when they remember some of their own special places, ones that I might have forgotten.